Hello, welcome back. We're discussing a really exciting topic today. And hello, if you've never seen me before, my name is Zovina. Pleasure to meet you. So today I think we're gonna do a proper sit down. I don't know how long this video is gonna be. This may be my first hour long. I don't know. We'll see. You guys know because you clicked on this, but I have no idea at this point. So I'm gonna talk through a topic that I have struggled with so much to understand and wrap my head around. So I'm filling in the gap because I don't know about you guys, but YouTube for me is my best friend, my therapist, my parent, my guru, everything. Like, I've turned to it for my whole life as a place to go to find answers for things that no one in my family or friends or in my physical world understand, or perhaps it's too inner world and private that I don't want to discuss it with people, or just whatever it is. YouTube is my best friend. And this particular topic I couldn't find a video for, so I'm making it. And I did this with my How to Be Around Unconscious People video as well, because there's just gaps sometimes, and I'm really hoping that this fills a gap when people search for this very specific topic, that hopefully this can help give you some insight, some answers, some clarity, and just that feeling of not being alone in it. Because when you can't find the answer across the internet, it does make you go a bit like, surely people are struggling with this too. Like, it's not just me. So yeah, so grab a tea. I feel like this is one of those where you can have this on, grab a tea, grab a blanket. I've got my giant green pillow. I love this pillow so much. So I will be snuggling with this during this conversation. Okay, so the topic is how to balance setting boundaries and cultivating that real sense of self-love, self-respect, and finally actually doing things for yourself and saying no to people. So just that whole, like, you're finally getting your self-worth together. And how does that marry and balance with being unconditionally loving to all things and all beings? Because for me, it felt like such a huge contradiction. I didn't understand how to cut someone out of my life because of how they were treating me and say no, and at the same time be unconditionally loving and understanding and not judge anyone. They just didn't go together in my head. I honestly think I spent months trying to balance this out and understand, like, I don't know how. And thankfully I feel like I figured it out. I feel like I'm at a place now where I'm like, yeah, okay, I understand what has been communicated to me from these two different worlds that I'm equally trying to cultivate and embody, and I feel like I understand how to bring them together now. So that is why it feels right to make this video now, because I've wanted to make this for a while, but I still didn't feel like I had enough clarity. But now I feel like I do. So hopefully I can give you some insights. I'm actually going to approach this in two different ways. The first one is like the practical living, the practical use. And the second one is spiritual and spiritual ascension way of embodying this, because I understand some of you may be on a self-development path and some of you will be on a spiritual path. And I feel like all of us are on a self-development path, but half of us are on a spiritual path as well. So I want to talk about it in both ways. I'm probably going to start with the practical way because I feel like that's the one that we all will benefit from, and then at a certain point some of you will probably drop off, and then I'll keep talking to those of us who are on the spiritual path as well. I think it makes more sense to do it that way. So so if you're like me, you are probably coming from a place where your self-worth was probably quite low, or still is, and you struggled to set boundaries. You were perhaps a people pleaser, and you're learning now how to say no to people, how to set boundaries and actually create like a solid foundation around your being. Because us people pleasers, we tend to not really have a sense of self for a while. We shapeshift and morph to whatever other people want, and we exude our energy way more than one should, out of fear of losing people, out of fear of getting into any kind of confrontation. And I kind of picture people pleasers as like gloop. You know, like what is that stuff called that was in all of those like 90s TV shows? Slime? Oh my god. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to call you slime. But this is what I visualize, and don't worry, I was this person too, so if you're insulted, I insulted myself too. I picture like slime, gloop, just like something that's just morphing constantly and has no shell, has no just container to hold itself in. And now we're learning to build our own container, build our own protection, build our own shell to live in that actually lets us move through life not being disrespected and used and just pushed around and always just morphing to someone else's energy. So I feel like I can only speak from a woman's perspective on this, but I'm sure there's a male equivalent. But there's a whole bad bitch era going on, and it's absolutely incredible. But I feel like sometimes we can go too far, and I'll explain what I mean. So as someone who is a people pleaser, you're now learning how to set boundaries, right? And say you are delving into that like bad bitch energy, it's really, really useful because it's the exact polar opposite of what you've been doing. So it is it's like such a aha moment when you discover it. That's what it felt like for me anyway. Discovering standards, discovering how to hold your feminine energy and your dark feminine energy, and it's so beautiful and world-changing. When I tapped into my dark feminine energy for the first time, it really did shift my being, and also how people were interacting with me. I noticed an instant shift. So it's so valuable and so worth learning and incorporating into your being. But then I find it's either sometimes, I don't know whether I was taking it too far or it's just a side effect that comes when you're putting on an act. So being that kind of way was so unnatural that you kind of put it on very rigidly. So like, I'll give you an example. This one actually only happened like a week ago, 2 weeks or something like that. So I was talking to this guy, and he was actually really wonderful. Like, seemed as if he was in his divine masculine, like really spiritually tapped in, and was actually really, really great. But then he said something that I didn't like, or that just didn't sit well with me, and I found it a bit disrespectful. And all of the bad bitch advice told me, as soon as they do something wrong or do something that you don't like, show them with your absence, show them with your energy. You don't need to verbalize what they did wrong. Just walk away, honey. And because I am usually someone who leans in so much, like I've come from that proper anxious attachment. You know, like when you have an abandonment wound, you tend to go one of which way. You either lean in and chase people, or you become avoidant and you leave people before they can leave you. I took this route, so I was a leaner. So this advice to just walk away sounded really shiny to me. It sounded really like, yeah, like if I'm gonna really tackle this part of my behavior patterns, and their advice is to just walk away and show them with your energy, I was like, okay, I'm gonna do that. So I just like left. I said, okay, I'm done here, and just like left. And afterwards I was like, that didn't feel right. And it didn't feel right, not because I'm so used to giving people way too many chances and all this stuff. It just didn't feel right. And this is where that part of my brain that naturally wants to be like unconditionally loving and understanding and respectful for people, it just was kind of going off like, that wasn't right. Like, I understand what you were trying to do, but it wasn't right. And I've been sitting on this for a while, because it definitely felt better than what I'd previously been doing, where I would have gone, that made me really uncomfortable, but I'm gonna laugh it off anyway because I don't want them to leave me. It felt so much better than that, but it still wasn't right. And this is where that part of me that goes, but I do believe that you shouldn't have to explain yourself to someone, so just walk away. But then at the same time, something felt really off and cold and just not, it just doesn't align with the person that I feel like I am. And this is where discretion really comes in, I think. So I think at the beginning, just make the mistakes. Like when you're trying to embody your new boundaries and new way of being, make the mistakes, because you will be able to feel each tweak that you need to make until you become the person that you feel you are. Because for me, that the whole I don't know what else to call it other than bad bitch energy, so I'm just gonna keep calling it that. I see it, it's so shiny and it looks so amazing, but it's so not me. And it takes a while to differentiate whether you're staying as you previously are, like the wounded version of you, or whether you just realize, no, actually I get that really works for some people, and I'm so happy for them that they can really thrive in that. But for me, it doesn't resonate. Like it's very put on. And I believe there is a way to balance having self-respect and being kind and loving to people that just works for your exact proportions. So like for me, in that scenario, if that exact thing came up again, I think it's about understanding how to accurately set boundaries with people. And it's this whole thing of everyone should know and everyone should be able to read your mind already and automatically know how to treat you is really difficult to understand, because I want that. But is it 100% realistic? As in, do we idealize people who are meant to be in our life being so perfect and without flaw and without that humanness of trial and error and learning? Do we idealize your friends or your partner absolutely 100% knowing how you want to be treated, how you want to be communicated with, how you want to be X, Y, and Z. And if they step out of line at all, we bounce. Is that too far? Because I kind of feel like it is. And I think what the key really is in this kind of scenario is always allowing the first conversation to happen, and then use their response to judge how you should react, whether to walk away or whether to give them a chance. So for example, in this scenario, I feel like I probably should have just set a boundary where you're being firm, but you're not being like you're just being like this is a barrier for me, and let them have the choice to either perhaps they get defensive and disrespectful, and so then you can be like, okay, you're not someone that's safe enough to set boundaries with, you're not someone that cares about how I feel when I'm expressing my feelings, so now I'm gonna leave. But if you express a boundary and they genuinely just didn't know that that was a line that they crossed, and they're really understanding, perhaps they apologize, they say, thank you for letting me know, now I understand you a bit better now, and this is important to me, thank you for sharing this with me. You don't have to walk away straight away. If you need to, I feel like their response to your boundary is so much more important than them saying something or doing something that upset you, if that makes sense. And for me, I feel like this is the bringing it together part, that if you can find it in your heart to understand that we're all learning, we're all human, we're all flawed, we've all got a past, we've all got our own conditioning, we're all at different stages of our healing, to just have a bit more compassion and patience with people doesn't mean you're being weak, and it doesn't mean you're letting people walk all over you. It's just understanding that we don't know each other as well as we think we do. This goes for people we've known for years, and then with the people that we're just getting to know, new friends or people we're dating, you don't know each other. You don't know how the other person feels about something or what their triggers are, or you just don't know. So I feel like have the first conversation is like a golden sentence to me anyway now. Have the first conversation. Let them know that what they said or didn't sit well with you, and then let their response be what you go off of. Because for instance, in a relationship scenario, to think that you are not going to have any moment where you misunderstand each other or miscommunicate or perhaps have a different view on something, if you come at it so strong, like I am protecting myself, I set boundaries now, and you come at it so like a ram just charging, you're gonna miss the opportunity to grow with someone and to learn someone. Because even in the most beautiful, perfect relationship where you're so made for each other, you need to be able to communicate, and you need to be able to set boundaries and express what's going on inside of you. And if someone upsets you and you speak to them about it and their response is so amazing, like that builds a strong connection, and you know each other a bit better, and you just understand how to build a relationship, and that will hold strong in a long-term friendship or connection of any kind. That ability to do that, because like you just shouldn't necessarily think it's okay to just walk away like this of the tiniest things. Like for me anyway, it just doesn't make sense. It feels powerful, but it feels powerful in a really egoic way. It feels powerful in a really wounded way, and it might be you need to walk through this valley in order to then realize it doesn't feel right, because that's what I had to do. I had to walk through it to then be like, I'm still not balanced. This still feels, it's just the reverse of my trauma. It's the mirror of my trauma. It's like I was so fluid and now I'm being so strong, and it's still a trauma response being that, like, you know. And it's like marrying them together, finding your own balance with it is where it's at. Is, in my personal opinion. Now I really feel like I should say this just in case, because I know when you are at the very beginning of starting to set your boundaries and stuff, and you are coming from a people-pleasing place, this doesn't mean if someone truly disrespects you that you should have a conversation with them. And hopefully you're able to know the difference, but to be honest, it might take you a while to know where that line even is, because if you're used to disrespect and you've been allowing it for like over 10 years or something, your tolerance is still a little too low and you're allowing a little too much still. It's a journey, like building that self-respect bit by bit, you know, it takes its time. But say you are in a place where you do understand what you're willing to accept and not, but you still just kind of, your responses can be a bit rogue sometimes. If someone really disrespects you, you can just walk away and you don't need to say anything, block them, do what you need to do, because you know there's no future there. There's no, you know, if someone calls you a name, bye. Like, we're not having a conversation about whether you can call me names or not. No, you don't need to have that conversation. If someone like lies to you straight up, no, personally, I don't need to have a conversation with you about this. I'm just, yeah, that I'm just out. But if someone just does something that's just like, you can tell their intentions weren't necessarily bad, it just didn't sit well with you, just have a conversation with them and then go from there. Because just finding balance is key for genuinely everything in life. But when it comes to your relationships and your interactions with people, we need to have self-respect and boundaries, but we also need to have grace for people. So that's my message on the practical, like physical world, day-to-day interaction as you're healing and learning self-respect and learning to set boundaries, how to balance the boundaries and being a loving person and an understanding person still. So now I'm going to move on to the part that's a little bit more fun for me, where my heart glows a little bit for, and that is the spiritual perspective. And this is actually where I struggled the most. And I really hope that this helps you guys, because my God, this literally, my brain was melting thinking about this. Okay, so when I talk about spirituality, I'm often talking about the law of one and how there is only one creator and we are all parts of that creator, because there was one awareness, one creator that then created the whole of existence, and we're all linked still. It's all still one mind, it's all still one being, one intelligence working the entire universe, the entire existence. So that's my personal belief, my personal direction when I do my spirituality practices and contemplations and what I meditate upon and all of that. The law of one is the title. And within that, it's said that the original thought, that the original awareness had, was that of love. The original vibration, the original essence of creation is love. Now, it might be easier if you, like, we understand that the word love is different in all languages, and if we just strip language away for a second and just feel what love feels like, let's actually take a moment to do that. Let's put our hands over our heart and just tap into the actual sensation of love. You might have to think about a loved one or a moment that made you feel love, or just if you're able to just think of the essence of love, you can just do that. So just that. That is said to be the essence of all creation, of all existence. And so as we're on our spiritual journey and we're making our way back to reality, as in breaking out of the physical illusion full of separation, full of suffering, where our egos run the show, to get back to reality, to crack out of the illusion, to break out of the matrix, so to speak, to step outside of the bubble and to actually see reality for what it really is, we need to make our way back to the true essence. Because I'm going to read you a passage, actually. This book, World Changing, The Law of One, the raw material. This book. I don't even have words. So when you feel called, if you feel called to pick this book up, you'll know when to read it. Because I actually bought this months ago and it sat with the rest of my books because I knew it wasn't time for me to read it yet. And I knew that it would, the moment when I picked this book up, I knew it would tell me, I would know. And I started properly reading it over the last few days. I started reading it in Thailand. It was a book I took with me, but yeah, you just know, you know when it's time, because it wasn't fully time for me. So I read like this much and then I stopped. And then when I came back, I've been blasting through it. I'm going to read you a passage. So Hatton, who is an entity who was being channeled, had some very insightful things to say. I think it's on page 30. Okay, I might read you two passages. So this is on page 27, part of the introduction still. It says, so this is Hatton speaking through the channel. He says, "We of the Confederation of Planets in service of the infinite creator are very sorry that we cannot step upon your soil and teach those of your people who desire our service. But, my friends, as we have said before, this would be a very great disservice to those who do not desire our service at this time. And we are afraid we would have little effect in bringing understanding even to those who desire it. For understanding, my friends, comes from within. We can only guide, we can only suggest. We are attempting to do this in such a way that the seeking of the individual will be stimulated to turning his thinking inwards to that single source of love and understanding, the Creator. That that is part of all of us, part of everything that exists. For everything that exists, my friend, is the Creator. We are very privileged to have you join with us in this great service at this time in the history of your planet. For this is a very great time, a great transitional period in which many of the Earth's people will be raised from their state of confusion to a simple understanding, the love of their Creator. Hatton speaks of our desire to seek something outside the physical illusion. What he talks about so persuasively is something that is often referred to by members of what Ra calls the Confederation of Planets in service to the infinite Creator as the original thought. This is another term for our word, love, but implies a great deal more. It implies a unity that is so great that we do not see each other simply as close friends or brothers or sisters, but ideally as the Creator. And as we see each other and ourselves as the Creator, we see one being. This concept is at the very heart of telepathy, and Hatton talks about this concept and the original thought in general. And then it goes on to speak about, essentially, I'll sum up what that means. The original thought of existence is love, which we just felt into. So when we want to make our way out of this illusion, we need to connect back to the feeling of love. We need to understand that the universe, the Creator, God, had only the intention to serve us all, to give us all a beautiful, perfect experience. And it's us as humans who have strayed so far from that. And to make our way back is to treat everyone and see with truth, see reality as it is, that we are all one being that is always provided for, always loved and always protected, and just here to experience. And the only thing that's meant to be happening is this beautiful exchange of love, this giving and receiving of love, and seeing everyone as your fellow brother and sister, as the Creator, as yourself. Obviously there is more to it, but that's like the nutshell essence that I am striving to, and I know many others are striving towards as well, as we do our spiritual practice, is to start living from the heart. This is the shift that's talked about when they talk about we're going to the fourth density from the third density. When we say 3D, we're going from the planet is literally in evolutionary transition. And for me, understanding this was wild, because I understood it, but I didn't understand it. And that, combined with all of this trying to develop myself from not being such a pushover and having no boundaries and letting people disrespect me over and over and over and over again, became really difficult, because I couldn't even understand how to let a friend go, because I let go of my best friend in the whole world because of the disrespect and the lies that were going on, and no amount of conversations were helping the situation. So I was so stuck between letting them go to protect myself and hearing about protecting your energy and your circle. The sum of your circle is the sum of your energy in your life. To understand that, and then to equally understand that everyone is your brother and sister, and that to love everyone and everything is the way forward spiritually, cracked my head, because I just couldn't comprehend the two together. But what I've come to learn and what I've come to understand is that it actually is one and the same. And I love the paradox of spirituality, because it's like you do this, you think you're on opposite sides, and then it just slowly does this, and you realize it was like this the whole time. I love it so much. It's so incredible when things start clicking. Okay, so what I have understood is that if I am you and you are me and everything is one, when you disrespect yourself by allowing people to disrespect you, you are disrespecting everyone else too. Not literally, but energetically. When you allow people to walk all over you, you are also allowing people to walk all over everyone else. But when you love yourself and you take care of yourself, you are also energetically loving and taking care of everyone else, because it's the same being. So what you give to yourself is what you give to others. And likewise, what you give to others is what you give to yourself. Everything is a mirror. Everything is the same. You can only give out what you have inside, and you can only receive what you have inside. It's literally one and the same. And so my advice is to keep working on loving yourself. Fill your cup first. Be completely cleansed, if you will, of your judgments, of your fears, of your disrespect to yourself. Because when you can truly learn to love yourself, you have so much to give. But if you are depleted and you can't even contain what's going on in here, you can't even nourish what's going on in here, you cannot adequately nourish someone else, because the energy that you are vibrating from and giving out from matters. So even when we do a loving act, but it's low-key a bit manipulative because you're trying to gain something on the low-key, you know, because you have to be so brutally honest with yourself of what you're doing and the intentions that you have, because many of us are actually very manipulative. And it sounds so horrible to say, and it might make you curl up, and if it makes you curl up, that is a sign that you need to look inward still at your intentions when you give out kindness and you give out love. Because when I first had to admit to myself that I'm actually quite manipulative, it hurt, because it felt so far from who I thought I was, because I was like, but I'm always trying to help others, I'm always trying to please others, I'm always trying to love others. But it was true, but it was coming from such a wounded place, such wounded energy, that wounding is projecting out, and it's not love of a high enough frequency to really impact someone. They often can see through it. They often can feel the desperation or lack of self-worth coming from this act of kindness, and you kind of just reject it a bit. Like when someone does something really loving to me, but I can tell that they're just trying to gain my approval or validation, I'm actually a bit like, I don't really want that. Like, you can keep that energy, because it actually makes me feel a bit like slimy and gross. And people can feel that, even if it's not something that they'll actively say, there is still a twinge, a like repellent, you know. So that love has no real value. It kind of becomes like neutralized and mute. So work on being self-loving, using the first part of this video, the practical ways to kind of balance that out and like do it in real life in the physical realm. I love that I can say that, and I know that you guys who are here for this second part know what I'm talking about, so I don't need to find it that weird, because sometimes I still get a bit like, oh, someone's gonna hear me say real life and chuckle and be like, oh, but I know you guys I can say it here. It's a safe space. Okay, yeah, so I was saying that many of us are actually low-key manipulative. Yeah, you need to get to a place where I can say that and it doesn't trigger you, because you're being that brutally honest with yourself. Because now when I can say that in the past that I was being manipulative, and it doesn't faze me to the slightest, because I know that it was just part of that journey. It was part of my identity back then, and I was brutally honest with myself enough to look my manipulative ways in the eye and say, I see you, and it's okay. I understand why you're here. I understand why you've been doing this and acting these ways. And actually thank it is one thing I would say to do. Actually thank the parts of you that they were protecting you. You can't be mad at them. Just really show gratitude to your ego, because it was doing such an act of love. But we're ready to pass it now. We're ready to move on from that way of being, and we're ready to start actually understanding what to be loving really means. What it really means to love yourself and have so much love inside that you can truly give it away, because it's infinitely there, and you really can give love away and it truly impact people. They can really actually feel that vibration, and it permeates through their body too, and just multiplies and grows and spreads. And so in a nutshell, when you're both healing your physical trauma responses and all of the physical egoic tendencies, but you're also on the spiritual path, and in particular if you're familiar with and interested in and feel truth in the law of one, the service to others and setting boundaries can be very, very, very difficult to balance. But my advice is you have to go inwards first and clear up inwards, because you have to clear up inwards in order to shine outwards. So I wouldn't really concern yourself too much with the service to others path yet. I feel like it finds you in perfect timing. It's so good to have awareness of it, and I would say still keep learning it and understanding it and have it kind of in the back of your mind. You're strengthening that muscle still, but it's like secondary to you doing your healing, because you'll notice at some point it just you don't need to do much. It will naturally come together and make sense and meet in the middle. Because for me, I spent so long trying to understand how to balance the two, but in the end I didn't need to do anything. It just happened. I was just like nourishing both still, but focusing on this with action. And this just comes when you truly feel like you're at a place that you have excess to pour. So yeah, fill your cup is all you really need to focus on, and the next stage will naturally come in a sequence of events where your cup is so full that you then start pouring out, and the service to others path naturally comes along. And you'll kind of feel like there's nothing else. You don't know what else to do with the excess energy. You don't know what to do with the excess love and understanding that you have, but to give it away. So yeah, you don't need to think too much is what I would say. Just like I said, just let it kind of simmer in the back of your mind. Still understand it, still kind of grasp it as much as you can, but don't stress about it. Just let it exist. Let it just, you know, it's like it's in this little cocoon, and it will bloom in the exact moment where it's like your water overflows onto the cocoon, and that's what melts the shell away and lets the butterfly fly. So I really, really, really hope that this speaks to some of you, because I just know and remember how much I needed this video, how much I needed this to be explained to me, because it was driving me insane. But I'm really, really, really happy that it did drive me insane, because I feel like now I am able to make this video, and hopefully it can just shorten some of your internal struggle a little bit, and you can just have your spiritual journey just be that little bit more peaceful when it comes to this topic. Yeah, so this is 50 minutes long. This is definitely my longest video. Thank you if you stayed till the end. That's really amazing. Like listening to me chat for that long. But yeah. I'm done talking now, but I'm just gonna go on a little tangent for a second, but has anyone reached that place yet where life feels so fun? Because I know, oh my gosh, some of you are gonna be like, the fuck? What do you mean? No, it's so hard. But I really want to know if any of you have reached that place yet where it's so much fun. Like, even the struggles are so much fun. I feel like you'll know what I'm saying, and I'm not even gonna explain anymore. If you know what I'm saying, let me know. Let's chat. If not, don't worry. It will come. It's on its way. Because you're already on the journey. If you are still watching this bit of this video, you're on your way, you're on the journey. Just know, literally, this existence is pure magic. It's freaking beautiful, more than I can explain, and you've only got such joy to come. Obviously with the fluctuations, because even this morning I was a little bit sad, but only because, like, before a breakthrough happens, I always get so sad. And it's happened so many times now that I actually am so aware that the sadness is because something incredible is coming, and again, I just don't get that sad. It's like, I'm sad, but it's like there's this thick layer of light. This is how I would describe how it feels at this stage, is this thick layer of light that is holding everything. And so even when there's like a raindrop or like a little fire or like something happens, it just feels so thin in comparison to the big chunk of light that holds everything up. So you're sad and you feel it and you go through it, but there's just this emanating peace, love, and understanding of just it. It's the flip reverse of living in the illusion. It's like the illusion, the matrix, the 3D world, the physical world that we live in. You have this which feels so dense and hard, and then you have sprinkles of light, sprinkle of good times, sprinkle of moments, and it's like it's flipped. It's now you're living in a bubble of light, and then there's just sprinkles of hard times and difficulties. It's flipped. And that is what I imagine is stepping outside of the illusion, going from the illusion into reality, where your main state and main awareness and consciousness is of the light and the love with sprinkles of difficulty. It's so amazing. But anyway, I really hope that this was helpful, and it's nice to sit and talk with you for a while. Yeah, this was fun. I enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one, and I hope you have an amazing day, and we will speak soon. I love you loads. Bye.